make sure. Thank you. So that we know that that's going to be something we can use in the future. Good. So for our first session tonight, I'm going to stay involved. We've got this is Judge with the Judges, and there we have a great panel of experts who are going to be helping us through the session. We've got from musicality, Delith Knight. From singing, we have Paula Taylor-Williams, and representing performance, we have Anna Konecki. So what we particularly wanted to do tonight, which is a little bit different from just the Judge with the Judges thing, is to look at some then and now performances. We'll go back and compare some performances from maybe 10, 20 years ago, and compare with something that's been done fairly recently, and cast a judging lens over that sort of thing. But to start us off, we're going to do what we usually do before a contest. We have a bit of level setting. So what I'm going to do, I'd like to play a clip, which is 3 quartets, and we'll then discuss them. You get about a minute of each quartet, and I'd encourage you to have a go at putting down a score and see how you line up with our judges. If you're feeling particularly brave, you could even put that in the chat. After that, I'm going to ask each judge to share, in a nutshell, what they're looking for in their category and tell us what scores they would give us. That's the level setting. Okay, so let's get going with the first clip.
Bird flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. I'm feeling good. Feeling good, feeling good, feeling good. Let me tell you all how I feel. I'm feeling good. I just can't hide it. I feel so excited. So listen up what I say. Well, fish in the sea. Yeah. I'm wondering what I'd do if all my dearest dreams came true. They'd all begin and end with you, only you. If I loved you, time and again I would try to say all I'd want you to know. If I loved you, words wouldn't come in an easy way. Round in circles I'd go, way round and round I'd go. Evenings by your side, I learned to love the night, but the loveliness of the night is no longer the same. When day's done and shadows fall, I dream of you. When day's done, I think think of all the joys we knew.
Awesome. Okay, so let's go to Paula first. What are you looking for in singing, and how would you score those quartets?
Okay, so in singing, we're evaluating the degree to which the performer achieves artistic singing in the barbershop style. So that's about how the performer combines the elements of vocal technique with emotion to create an artistic result. So just unpick those techniques a little bit. That's to do with tuning, precise tuning, good vocal quality, well supported, freely produced and resonant, where the singers are accentuating the best resonant qualities of their own voices. And we've got unity, things like synchronization, diction, sound flow, and then we've got vocal expression, where we're asking the singers to communicate the message of the song to the listener. And there's a really close correlation between good technique and artistry. So that's the good nutshell, I think.
Excellent. And the scores?
Oh, okay. Let's see. I can't see the chat, so I've no idea what people have put. So I'm going to go quartet 1, 66, quartet 2, 57, and then quartet 3, about 80.
Awesome. Okay, super. Thank you. Doing really well in the chat, those brave ones who are putting some numbers up there. Yeah, Delith, go ahead, Paula.
I was just going to say, it's probably worth saying that there is a difference between how we would score a live performance and a video performance.
Yeah.
Isn't there, Delith and Anna? We sometimes kind of, mark a little bit lower on a video performance. Yeah.
So Delith, what are we looking for in musicality?
Well, good evening, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, whatever it is. If you'll excuse me, because we're now musicality and not music, I'm going to read an extract from the nutshell to make sure I get it right, because I haven't completely memorized it yet. So what does the musicality judge? The degree to which performances demonstrate musicality in the barbershop style. The ensemble's musicianship in bringing the song and the arrangement to life, and their skill in accurately and artistically delivering music in the barbershop style. And I think it's important that we've actually lost the words, the suitability of the material to the barbershop style, because it's now the case that barbershop isn't a musical genre on its own. It's a style of arranging to which all sorts of genre of songs can apply. And you'll have heard from those 3 clips and some of the ones that are coming on later that we now sing a vast array of different musical genre. But the 4 key elements are, of course, 4-part harmony, no instrumental accompaniment, melody primarily in an inside voice, so there's harmony above and below, and consonant harmony and lyrics throughout most of the song via strongly voiced chords which lock and ring and give us that buzz, which I know we all share, don't we? So would you like that's a very sketchy nutshell. As anybody said, all of these are actually on the BABS website if you go and look for them. So I'd recommend you doing that for the new category, especially if you're planning to compete in the forthcoming year.
That's
okay.
fabulous. Oh, are we going to prompt you for the scores again?
Yeah, well, I think for Quartet Essential, the first one, I think they're a low to mid B quartet, which is a good club standard, really, isn't it? About 67. For Intersection, If I Loved You, a high C level, probably about 57. And Finest Hour, When Day Is Done, a high B plus, around about 78. But I've also written, alerted to the possibility that if we hear more of it, we'll probably get into A.
Yeah.
Which is 80
Yeah, that's a good point, because any comparison with what we'd see on stage, this is just a snippet, so we're getting a level setting sort of score, which isn't necessarily true. Great. Oh, thanks, Delith. Anna, the same nutshell for performance.
Yes, hello. Well, this year, recently, just as music has become musicality, the performance category has been rewritten. And the performance judges really evaluate the degree of entertainment and the effect on the audience. And we now judge by looking at some major characteristics, which are believability. So we want authentic emotional expression, not contrived choreography. We want communication, which is good storytelling, looking at how particularly the storytelling overlaps with musicality in terms of using all the embellishments and the opportunities given by the arranger to tell the emotional story. Good rapport between members of the ensemble and with the audience. Creativity and artistry, bringing all those things together. So all those characteristics using vocal, musical, and staging opportunities and components.
Super, thank you. And I think everyone in the chat has actually ranked everybody in the way we'd expect them to rank it. So good work, those people who volunteered. Okay, so let me just go back to Paula. Maybe what sort of advice could you be giving to these quartets to what they could do better?
First of all, Mike, did Anna give us her scores on the doors?
Oh, did she not?
I
Okay,
didn't.
Anna.
Oh,
No.
you can't let Anna off the hook.
No,
Thank
because
you.
points mean prizes, as we know, Paula. So I was more generous with the first quartet. I gave them 70 because I thought there was some credible emotion coming off the stage. I felt at ease with them, but they allowed some vulnerability and some excitement to communicate to the audience. And I thought that they moved nicely from the introduction, adding facial and physical energy as the song progressed. And I felt engaged and reasonably at my ease, putting myself in the position of an audience member. So I was going to give them 70 for that. The second quartet I gave 59, and the third I was generous and gave them 83.
Super, they love you. Okay.
Yeah.
So Paula, I was just going to ask you sort of maybe sort of like what would one of the quartets be doing to improve?
Well, I think if we think about the first quartet, Essential, they're doing so much right, which is why they're scoring in that kind of, high 60s band. They're performing the skills frequently, but there are lapses in inconsistency. But there are also elements of artistry, which links to what Anna was saying about the quartet, which kind of does give you a sense of ease about what they're doing. But I think, to improve, that quartet, I'd probably look at the vocal quality and try to work to a bit more of a match of timbre between the four singers, because you've got a lead singer who's got a very different timbre to the other three. He's got a more contemporary kind of style to his singing, and with lots of lots of really good vocal expression. And the other three are doing a good job. They're good singers, but we're just not quite linked in together. So that's where I think I'd go with Essential.
Super. Delith, again, pick a quartet and what would you give them as advice?
Shall I go to If I Loved You at Intersection?
Yes, why not?
I think that I'd be suggesting to them that they work really hard on getting the right notes. The baritone, I fear, was a little flat in some places. And what that does for music is that it disturbs the harmonic integrity. In other words, you're not going to get locked and ringing chords if somebody is singing a wrong note or a poorly tuned note. So I'd be wanting to work on some of that. And also for them to think about what the music is trying to do and what the arrangement does to support the song. They knew what the song was about in the sense that they knew it was a love song, and they all sang it with that, but they didn't seem to get into some of the emphasis that they could have had and the enhancement that they could have had by using some of the echoes to reflect the fact that they're telling a story through music. And they're also a little bit phrase by phrase by phrase. I would prefer more musical flow. So that's why they didn't quite get into the B level for me.
Yeah.
I'd be wanting a lot more of that.
And that's exactly would affect singing in a slightly different way, but for the similar reasons, Delith. Yeah, we'd get into the 60s with more of that because it's more expression, more vocal expression, more musical. Yeah.
Super. Anna,
Can I just, just a kind of, I think the that quartet, I'm glad you chose it, Delith, is a lovely example of how all the different categories just slightly overlap and enhance each other in their judging, because the things that you would have mentioned in terms of musicality would also be a factor in the communication and believability in the storytelling, because it's about using all the opportunities from the song, the lyrics, the musicality, to bring genuine emotion, to be rather than to do, in terms of the song, to progress the story and invite the audience to feel the love song, not just observe the love song. Performance
Super.
now is about feeling, not just seeing.
Thank you so much. That is our level setting. That's what we kind of do. We have we score, we chat about quartets and get us on the same plane. Now for something completely different. We're going to show some clips of something which those of you who've been here a long time might remember, and compare it with something a bit newer. So here we go. What do you think of this?
When the world is crashing down, put away that great crown. Show them what a sunny smile can do. Keep your sunny side up, hide the side that gets blue. If you have 9 suns in a row, baseball teams make money, you know. Keep your funny side up. Keep your sunny side up. Remember, there's one thing to think of when you're blue. So blue. There are others much worse off than you. That's true. If a lot of trouble should arise, just laugh and say it's great to be alive. Kids in a row, Barbershop's the answer, you know, so keep your funny side up. Let your laughter ring through to you. Stand up on your legs, be like 2 fried eggs. Keep your sunny side up and sing your troubles away. Then you'll be feeling okay. If you're feeling lonely and sad, why don't you harmonize? And soon you'll be so glad you gotta keep your funny side up, up, up. Let your laughter ring through to you. Stand up on your feet, give the world a treat. Keep your sunny side up.
Excellent. And Delith, you chose these 2 performances. Why did you pick these, for example?
I thought it would be interesting to go back and compare some really old school music with what we have today. In 1991, I mean, this was a show performance, not a contest performance, but this was a contest number from a few years ago. It was judged under arrangement, which was the predecessor category of music. The categories changed, I think, around 92, 93. But essentially, the song is a really good vehicle for contest. It was then, it is now. It ticks all the boxes for consonant potential, chord vocabulary, and all the hallmarks of barbershop style that we want to see, that I mentioned earlier on in the arrangement. All of that's in place. So we can park the style side of it and look at what the performance was. The song sung as a show opener, by the Great Western Chorus, was a really brash, loud, important opening, solid 4/4 tempo, which is interesting. And I urge you to go back and put Keep Your Sunny Side Up into YouTube and see what the original composers thought it should be in 1929 during the Great Depression. So it was more like a march than a dance, wasn't it? They got to the verse, there's one thing to think of when you're blues, and there was more flow and contrast in that. We like that. And of course, there's some fantastic chords. There's no sign of the what you might call swing or any idea that there are subdivisions in a 4/4 beat, that sort of thing. And it's a horrible word to use because I was actually around in 1991, but it was a bit unsophisticated in modern terms. Was there actually any musicality on the show? It was quite punchy. It was sung phrase to phrase, like the quartet I mentioned just now. We'd more flow and much less punch these days. But I think it would still score a mid-B sort of score around about the 70-something mark, I reckon. Crucible Vocal Project, it's not quite the same arrangement. That doesn't matter because arrangers are free to do what they like, but the basic song is the same. You'll have noticed that one had a baseball team, the other had a barbershop quartet. I don't know what the original song had. I bet it was probably baseball team, but a barbershop quartet change of lyric is perfectly acceptable for a modern contest. It shows creativity, and we like that. And the words rhyme, they scanned with the music, and it all locked in really nicely. This performance shows much more the subdivision in the beats, that sort of thing. And that comes across through the use of many more words and word sounds, which are used as a rhythmic driver, a rhythmic propellant. And it's really important, if you're going to do that, that you make sure that your tempo is consistent as you want it to be and your rhythm is consistent, because again, it's still a dance number, but this is much more of a quick step than a march. What else?
Let's move to. We could listen to sort of what the other categories thought of the differences there. That you tested them with what the musicality was changing. But Anna, that was a very interesting contrasting performance style.
Yes, and it's interesting because someone put in the chat, oh, it looks very dated now, the Great Western. And I think my category has gone, we're on our third iteration since that time. And at the Great Western's performance was very much about sort of symmetry, choreography, unity, stylized, kind of extremely well rehearsed, but a rather preoccupied performance that was impressive to the audience, but didn't necessarily invite them in. It was impressive to watch, but not necessarily emotionally accessible. And I think what's happened over the years, and I think it's lovely for the audiences, is that accessibility, credibility, the kind of things that we saw with the Crucible Project's version, mixing freestyle with some really creative, bang on creative moves, just to show us all that they can do it spot on if they want to, but inviting us to join in, be flexible, accessible and real. Again, this thing that, I'm quoting Teresa Weatherby here, she keeps saying, it's about being, not doing. And I think that is really entertaining for an audience. So it's nice to see the change over the years, from expert to accessible is, yeah.
Nice way of putting it. Again, the singing's very different as well, isn't it, Paula? Though very good on both counts.
Yeah, very, very contrasting, but both great in their own way. And I think the first chorus, Great Western Chorus, what precision. I mean, that's an incredibly well rehearsed group of people, and we love that. We still love that. We love precision. We love that. And there was a big focus there, wasn't there, on all sounding the same. So those guys have all been taught to sing their vowels in a particular way, tall posh vowels. We used to talk about that, didn't we? Tall posh vowels, which then creates this kind of big fat sound, with that kind of lowered larynx feel, which has a bit of a choral kind of quality to it. But it's still great. I think, as you say, Del, I think that would still score in the 70s if it came on today. But I think it's the artistry elements and the nuance that we're now getting in performances, in the delivery of a vocal line, that kind of is different. So the Crucible Vocal Project, the emphasis there is absolutely on artistry. They're doing so much in terms of how they're delivering the vocal line. There's lots of nuance, great use of consonants, some changes in tone color, some inflection. And I think what's quite impressive about this group is, the balance between higher and lower voices in a mixed group is often really difficult to achieve. But I think they do it really quite well in this group. So I'm not losing, the female voice in the lead line. And that often happens, and it doesn't happen so much in this group. And what's very different about the timbre of the voices, isn't it? That's the biggest difference, is that it's a very very contemporary sound, we describe it as these days, where it's just about each individual singer singing the best that they can with their natural voice. Of course, they're working very hard on vocal skills. You can absolutely tell that. But I think that's probably the biggest differences between them.
And I think that's a good link through to our next clip, Paula, because this is what you chose, and let's have a look at this.
There's a little shamrock that the Irish say will bring you luck if you find it someday. You can see I'm kinda lucky by this great big smile, 'cause I found a lovely shamrock that was there all the while. I'm saying I'm looking over a four-leaf clover that I overlooked before. One leaf is sunshine, the second is rain, the third is the roses that grow in the lane. No, there's no need explaining, the one remaining is somebody I adore. I'm looking over a four-leaf clover that I overlooked before. Farewell, every old familiar face, time to stray, it's time to stray away. Only wait till I communicate. Here's just what I'll say.
Oh, I like that.
Life is tough, we all know, when struggles just won't end. Don't throw in the towel, don't give it up. Just listen to the story, my friend. Listen up, my friend, listen to the end. Two little mice of great renown fell in some milk and one proceeded to drown. The other one, he's the toast of the town, 'cause he made butter out of cream. He looked around, seduced his plight, said this is no way to spend a Saturday night. But he had a style to make things right, so that he made butter out of cream. He kicked his legs up we tossed and turned, so not you land. Ba-ba-da-da, did the hokey pokey till the cream was churned. Then Mr.
He walked right out and buttered his toast.
Shibba-dibba-da, now he's on top, for goodness sake. Yeah, he's the big cheese up at Land O'Lakes. Yeah, he's living proof that man, all it takes is a steam.
Just a little scheme.
So if you land in the gutter, da-da,
Just make butter out of cream.
da-da-da.
Ah. Mike, you're muted.
Paula, why did we choose those?
Well, they're both just brilliant examples. They're masterclasses in great singing, both of them, for different reasons. And you can also see the development of the style since the acoustics in the 90s and after hours. When were acoustics around? Yeah.
Acoustics 1990, I think.
That's it.
I was 2017.
That's it. Yeah. Okay. So you can see that the development in the vocal style. So acoustics again. I think somebody wrote in the chat. Did you see those lips? You know, you're totally right. You know, in the 90s we were kind of like, you know, when I joined the chorus in the 90s, I was given a vowel chart with lip shapes that I had to use. So that's what they were all about, wasn't it? You know, matching those vowels, tall, creating the space. But you know, we now know that all that kind of like manipulating the lips really affects the vocal quality and adds a lot of tension into the sound. But it's still great singing, isn't it? It's rich. It's really rich. Gosh, they ring chords, don't they? And they match like crazy, and their precision is, you know, top notch. You know, the bass is a feature of this quartet, isn't he? And how great to see him still singing at a top-notch level in a quartet recently at International. So yeah, and I love the flow that they have across the vocal line. It's just really easy to listen to. And then After Hours, well, what a contrast. So, you know, this quartet is all about embracing the individual qualities of each voice. And, you know, you might say, well, the bass and the lead don't match, do they? Well, actually, they have got different qualities, but boy, do they work well together. And I think that's quite a big shift for us into, you know, really celebrating individual difference. And they're both delightful. And we've got the tenor and baritone who are just doing a fantastic job. They don't get in the way. They're sitting in their mix. They're filling out the chords, and it's brilliant. The lead has a really engaging style, doesn't he? It's very artistic, and it all just feels so natural. You're drawn into the storytelling of the song because of the way he delivers the lyric, and then the way that his voice just does stuff. He's thought about it a lot, I suspect, but it just does stuff, doesn't it? Which is just so lovely and very, very skilled. You know, it's not flawless, is it? It's not flawless, but we're not taken out of the message of the song. And, you know, for us in singing, that puts our score into the 90s, I think. So
it's really lovely, Paula, to hear how the language that we're using across categories now is so similar to each other, because, you know, you will talk about, from your category point of view, being drawn into the story of the song.
Yeah. Whereas,
you know, maybe with another quartet, not this one, I might be talking about being taken out of the story by a quality, some sound quality, which is, you know, tuning that is so difficult, you can't park it. That takes me out of the story.
Yeah.
Whereas for you, you know, you've been talking about what adds to the emotional quality of a song from a singing perspective. And I think it's lovely that we're all kind of really talking about the same three different ways, musicality, singing and performance, that we're offering the message to the audience. And I think one of the big differences again and again that we're seeing is, you know, you're talking about the emphasis on matching in singing then, and the permission for individuality within a blend now. And I think certainly in performance as well, that's been, you know, we used to talk about, you know, unity and synchronization, whereas now we can talk about unified purpose, but actually embrace individuality in terms of the performers. So, you know, in After Hours, their individuality shone through, but the unity of purpose was absolutely bang on. And they managed to do all of that. The individuals relate to each other, enjoy the song, and relate to the audience. You know, the little comment about Langer Lakes, the big cheese at Langer Lakes, someone hoots in the audience, they go like that, bang on rhythm and carry on with the song. You know, they've included, it's like playing catch with them in terms of the emotion. They bounce it out to us, we catch it, send it back. And that's a real, you know, we talk about expansion of a chord. You can expand emotions like that through a performance by just passing it back and forth across the quartet with the audience and back. And I think performance judges, particularly, you know, in our good seats, we can actually feel some of that audience rapport behind us, and it really adds to the energy of a performance. And this freeing up now, I think, in our hobby, not the insistence on matching, has really been a fantastic step forward, I think.
And with my apologies to Delith, I'm going to move on to the third clip so that we can.
Sorry, Della.
If that's okay,
You're
Delith.
talking too much, girls.
I know.
No, it's you know, judges going on their pet subject. It's just lovely to behold. Here we go.
Is this yet another song about love? Those broken-hearted stories we've heard. Could this be a mother song or a sweetheart's rendezvous? It's sure to go on and on, on and on and on and why, oh, why don't they smile? Is it something that I've said or done? I know that they're struggling, I can tell by their eyes.
Well, after years of intense therapy and weeks of intense coaching, we've learned that the key to scoring more points and earning medals in the Barbershop contest is authenticity. Right, performance judges? So, we'd like to invite you to sit back and relax while we take you on a magical journey through the deepest and darkest corners of our minds.
Come see inside our minds. Ra-da-da-da-da-da. These are our insecurities, our deepest insecurities. We live in constant worry and in strife. I mean our insecurities, but we'll show our maturity and bring our insecurities to light. Sometimes we wonder if we'll ever win gold, 'cause our hairlines and our comedy are getting old. And though we're YouTube celebrities, we know we're 4 years past our peak.
So why would you give this another chance?
Well, here it is, you smarty pants.
We can't accept the truth, we're in denial of the truth. Your insecurities in life will eat at you.
Cool, great. Oh, I love that. Yeah, I'd love to hear all of both those performances. Anna, why do we choose these?
Okay, well, I'd like to say that performance category isn't, you know, I'm not on commission for comedy, quartets or parody, but I just thought these exemplified creativity, which is one of the characteristics that performance category really champions. And I think they showed imagination, excitement, again, accessibility to the audience. There was a wonderful rapport because there are references. Obviously, most of our barbershop audiences are, in fact, competing barbershoppers. And so it was inclusive, creative staging for sound crew. Someone said in the chat, when was this? Sound crew was 2003. Newfangled 4 was 2023, so 20 years apart. And yet I have to say that sound crew still stands up as an outstanding performance. And apart from the fact that our friends have all sadly aged a little, the actual performance passes muster now in terms of creativity. Yeah, so I just thought it was a lovely contrast to some of the other clips that we'd seen. And all about rapport, really, I think, with the audience.
And Delith, what do you do with it from a music point of view when they're talking for half the song?
Well, you can't judge it because it's not music until they start singing. Even though they're going ooh, 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 ooh at the back, that, you know, that's kind of vamped to already, isn't it? And you have to bear in mind that musicality judges, don't look. So it has to work vocally as well as visually. And so what's important from the musicality point of view is how, if you're going to change the lyrics, which is generally what a parody does, have you made it effective? Obviously, the singing, the musical delivery has to be good. It has to be musical. It has to be well tuned. You still have to have chords. But on top of that, do your replaced lyrics scan? Do they stick fairly closely to the original, which you might need to know? Do they rhyme? Do the embellishments work? Do they add anything to the music? Are there laughs all the way through? And that's really difficult. And do the laughs fall at appropriate musical climactic points? And there are two examples in one in each of those. For example, sound crew going on and on and on and on, which is a musical joke. And I particularly like musical jokes. It's a great embellishment, beautifully delivered and very funny. And in Newfangled 4, the echo, we're in denial of the truth. I thought that was very cleverly done. And they also had the switch of wander, wherever I wander, but that's WANDER in the original, isn't it? WONDER in their version. That's clever. That's very clever and very creative. But the main thing is it funny? If it's not funny, please don't do it, because it's not going to score on so many different levels. But you know, if you're funny and you sing and deliver your music really, really well, you're going to score very, very highly. You know, you're going to be into the A's without much difficulty. But that takes a lot of work.
And Paula, the singing, how does the comedy affect you and your category?
Yeah, I mean, you know, if someone's going to come on and you know it's going to be a comedy number, I'm kind of like, I'm gearing up. If the comedy is that good at the beginning, as it was with both these quartets, I'm gearing up to hear good singing. So you know, I'm gearing up for this has got to be good singing. Otherwise, it will fall flat. It won't work. Because as you've already said, Delith and Anna, you would say, you know, the two have got to kind of go hand in hand for it to really work, for it to really be an expressive performance. And both these groups, you know, nailed that, didn't they? You know,
I think they absolutely did. And in terms of the then and now, because this is, you know, we are judging together on this session, and I'd like to point out that although there has been perhaps some score creep over the last 20 years, in 2003, Sound Crew scored 80% with that.
Yeah.
So, you know,
credit. I think Newfangled 4 do sing better, so they would score higher overall for singing. because the overall singing quality is better, but there's so much that is good about both that would score very well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. I'm very aware that, and I'd love this to go on all night. We set ourselves a challenge to get as much as we could into 45 minutes. So I apologise that we're not really going to get to any questions tonight. But I'd really like to thank Dalith, Paula, and Anna for their contributions